kind of the flip side of this
Yes.
is the type of candidate that Democrats could do a lot better with and the type of politics that might be a lot more successful for them is represented in a lot of ways by John Fetterman in Pennsylvania, who, was mayor of a working class former steel town outside of Pittsburgh. He's got this great everyman sort of demeanor and affect to him, wearing the baseball shorts or basketball shorts around everywhere he goes and not doing it as like a thing, but just because that's literally who he is. And in fact, new polling has him up on his competitor here, Dr. Oz, pretty significantly. Let's go ahead and put that up on the screen. So this Suffolk University USA Today poll of likely midterm Pennsylvania voters, Fetterman is at 46. Oz is down at 37. So Hollywood, not a big selling point in Pennsylvania, at least at this point. Now, I would take every poll with a million grains of salt, especially because they have tended to overstate Democratic support.
Especially Pennsylvania.
Understate Republican support. But still, the fact that, Fetterman is up and outside of the margin error here is pretty significant. Fetterman, one analyst, I think this is Amy Walter who tweeted this, he's consolidated his base. He has much higher favorable, unfavorable ratings than Oz. So he is in better position there. I looked through some of the crosstabs, the places where Fetterman is really doing strong, and this is kind of funny,
Yeah, it's
Saagar.
hilarious.
So he's winning independents, 44-24. He's winning women, 52-29.
Geez, Dr. Oz, what's going on?
Trump's whole thing of like, oh, he'll do great with the women.
Yeah.
Which I actually thought maybe,
I thought he would too.
I genuinely thought that Oz would be a stronger candidate than this, and it's very early in the ball game. But, this is a district where, given the Republican landslide we're about to witness, this should be kind of in the bag for Republicans in a way, and looks like it's going to be a very tough fight.
The only reason I think things will trend differently is that Oz is coming out of a legitimately bruising primary where he was just brutalized by McCormick and by Kathy Barnett. If you actually look at some of his negatives, a lot of them are coming from Republicans.
Yeah, but Fetterman literally just had a stroke.
Oh, I don't disagree with you.
And also was hit by a bunch of negative ads during his primary saying he's like a socialist and all this stuff.
But he was always, right? It was never even tight, right? I mean, it was clear from the primary results that a lot of Republicans did not want Oz to be the nominee. So there's still some bad feelings. Now, my thinking is that, as I saw with Donald Trump many times, you can have a mega low favorability rating and people will still come out in droves in order to vote for you if they don't like the other person. So that is... I'm still going to bet on Oz, but it's a lot closer than it should be. And he has a lot of ground in order to make up. If anything, he needs to shore up a lot of his Republican base. He needs to get Trump to probably come to the state and stump around for him and actually go to bat. So bring up his favorables there. And then if Trump can consolidate the Republican support for him, he can go out more into the suburbs and try to make his case there. So if Trump is able to bring out that working class vote, and if you just turn it into a referendum on Biden and have nothing to do with Fetterman, if I was Oz, that's probably what I would do. I wouldn't even talk about John Fetterman. I would just be like Biden. Leader of the party, Kamala. Talk about that all day long.
Yeah, because Fetterman is liked. I mean, this is
it's
the
very
other
high
thing.
favorability.
This is from Josh Kraushaar this morning.
Yeah.
Oz's favorability with independents, 17 to 57. Minus 40.
That's bad.
Biden's favorability is better than that with independents. He's at 35 to 60, which is not good, but that's better than Oz. I mean, the problem with Oz, too, is that because he is so known, it's not like, we haven't introduced him to the public and they just haven't gotten to know him. There's a distaste there that's sort of baked in that he's going to have to ultimately overcome. And, if it's a comparison between sort of like the Hollywood dude who just moved into the state to run for this office versus the everyman who was the mayor of the steel town, that's not a great matchup for them ultimately. I mean, at least based on this polling and how it looks here. So we'll see how it goes. Because the other thing that Oz doesn't have going for him that like Trump did is Trump was beloved by the base.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I don't think there's a hardcore Dr. Oz fan base out there. So, I think Republicans are very motivated to vote against Democrats, but you got to be able to get some independents on board too. And right now there appears to be a lot of distaste for Oz with independents in the state. Right,
but it's not all good news for the Democrats there. Let's put this up there.
Well,
they elevated.
This is incredible too because I would have guessed that this would be more like Oz. The polling for Oz Fetterman. But here you have the governor's race, Josh Shapiro, the Democrat, at 44. So he is up. But Mastriano, who is a total election denying, stop the steal.
He's a lunatic. Let's just
lunatic,
say. Yeah.
Who was so actually central to this stuff that he's come up in the January 6th committee hearings. He was at the Capitol on January 6th. He was very instrumental in like helping Trump plot in Pennsylvania how to try to overturn the election results. And he would be the one appointing the Secretary of State. So Shapiro is at 44 and Mastriano is only at 40. Oh, and guess what? Democrats propped this guy up in the primary because they thought he'd be easy to beat.
Yeah.
And now he's like—
now he's inside the margin of error.
Inside the margin of error. And you have a real shot to lose to this lunatic. Congratulations. Now look, would he have won the primary without Democratic help? I don't know. He did win it pretty easily. But Shapiro spent more on a single ad for Mastriano than he spent on ads his entire campaign. So Democrats asked for this opponent and now are in danger of losing.
Yeah, it's not
Way to go.
good. It's really not good, Krystal. And look, I don't know a ton about Josh Shapiro, but you know, in terms of his background and more, like it'd be very easy to, he falls much more in the category of the elitist, you know, from the city categorization than a John Fetterman, who just, look, no matter what you think, like you could say he's a tool of them, but he's not a one of them.
Yeah.
You know, he went to Georgetown Law. He's somebody who presents very much as like your typical kind of mainline Philly Democrat. That's just not really something. He worked previously like in the Senate. He's got typical politician vibes.
Culturally, he reads as like, he reads more as like elite liberal.
Yeah, I mean,
just like putting his work in his position.
Put his work and all of his position aside. Vibes matter a lot, and you know Fetterman has better vibes, I think. And if anything, that's what Dr. Oz is going to be running against and have the biggest problem in his election. Mastriano is not going to have that. I think Mastriano is going to be the much more indicator of the actual red wave, just given the fact that Pennsylvania right now is $5.05 a gallon. It's not going anywhere. And we know that given gas, the trajectory of it, the continued spike in the price, the basically admission by the Biden administration, which I'll be talking a lot in my monologue, that none of it's ever even working and there's no end in sight. Yesterday, the White House press secretary, this happened after we planned the show, came out and said that gas companies should be patriots to lower the price of gas.
Oh, good fucking luck with that.
That is how that works.
Biden
that's
sent
how
a
that
strongly
works.
worded letter. Oh, I'm sure they're going to really take that to heart. Great job, guys.
Congratulations. It's like,
so pathetic.
all you have to do is run that on repeat all day long. I mean, I saw another clip. This new lady is so terrible, where they asked her about the baby formula crisis and she flipped through her binder and then she goes, I have nothing to say on that. So it's like
wow.
You would never think of the day that the Biden team would want Jen Psaki back on the podium, but that's where we are.
Jen Psaki, we're not big fans, but she knew how to handle herself.
She did at least, she knew. I mean, she just had a lot more experience. That guy John Kirby's actually not. I can't stand him, but he is at least.
Yeah, because what did she had been? What, Hillary's box at State
She was a
Department?
State Department spokesperson under Obama, and I think she was comms director under Obama as well. She just had a lot. I mean, she's just been in the game for a long time. She did TV.
It's not an easy job.
No,
like remembering the talking points. It's very different from like actually saying what you think. I don't think I'd be good at it either.
Oh, I'd be terrible.
Yeah, that's why I would never, ever, ever want to be in the position of like having to lie for a living to the American people.
The Fetterman polling does remind me of one thing,
which
is candidate quality almost never matters these days until it does matter. And that means that on the margins, you have to be a really, really, really good candidate, top 1% type level in order to break through. And those are basically unicorns. But when they do come out, it's a good thing for the Democrats.
I mean, this is really a kind of a heavyweight matchup.
Yeah.
And it matters a lot more. So the higher level you get in politics, the more it's likely to matter.
That's a good point.
So at a statewide level, much more likely to have an impact than these congressional races. It's just whatever the mood of the country is, however the lines are drawn, those sorts of things are ultimately what really matters, especially in general election. The primary, it's a little bit of a different dynamic here. But I just have to say one other thing about Fetterman, which is that, you know, in his primaries up against Connor Lamb, who's a total he's like lawyer. He's got the sort of elite liberal affect. He's the type of guy Democrats love to recruit.
Yes.
And the argument against Fetterman was, oh, he's not electable. Mm-hmm. And it just shows you how little the Democratic party leadership understands about what people actually respond to. And so Fetterman has, especially on economics, much more left positions than Connor Lamb did. But there is zero doubt that he is a million times better candidate to actually win in the general election, ultimately. I mean, I just don't think that there's any doubt about that, because it really matters. And I don't think this is a slam on the voters, that people just get a sense from you if you like, oh, you get it. Like, you can relate to me. You understand what I'm going through. That kind of gut test ultimately matters a lot. So again, long way to go for this election. Polls should be taken with a lot of grains of salt.
Yes.
But this is a different landscape in Pennsylvania in this one race than I expected it to
If you apply the K&S, Krystal and Saagar rule of +7, it does put Oz with a margin of error. So
yeah.
there you
True.
go.
True, but
Right.
I did not think you were going to have to apply that. I thought he'd be up from the jump. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.